A strange shimmer rolled across the horizon, like the desert itself was laughing, and Ranger Hale muttered the same words everyone else was thinking. Well, we're screwed. The windstorm that had been gentle an hour ago now screamed through the valley with enough force to rattle the steel plating on the outpost. Equipment toppled, sand lashed against armor like 1,000 needles, and the station's communication dish spun wildly like it was possessed. Every ranger on site Harlow stared at it with the same expression, absolute defeat. Except one. Lira Vos stood near the railing, her hair whipping violently but her expression dead calm, studying the chaos like she was reading a puzzle someone scribbled in the sky. She wasn't a veteran, wasn't a decorated sharpshooter, wasn't even supposed to be out here with the Outer Ridge Ranger Squad. She'd been assigned as a technical apprentice, the person who handed the professionals tools and stayed out of the way. But today, the universe decided to mess with all of them. The station's long-range relay dish, their only lifeline, had jammed during the annual calibration sweep. On any normal day, they'd climb out and fix it. But today the wind was weird, unnatural, like it twisted sideways and doubled back on itself. The outpost's meteorological AI insisted it couldn't exist. The desert storms of Arctis 9 weren't supposed to behave like this. And yet here it was, screaming across the ridge, threatening to tear the entire communication array apart. Ranger Hale slapped the side of his helmet. Command's gonna flay us alive if we don't get a signal through. They'll think we're ignoring protocol. Commander Thorne crossed her arms, jaw tightening. We're not climbing that tower. Not with crosswinds hitting 90 meters per second. We'd get tossed like confetti. Ranger Jules added. Even a drone can't get steady. Wind shredded the last one in 10 seconds. The team looked collectively miserable. Lira watched the spinning relay dish wobbling on its axis. If they didn't restore its position, the outpost would lose all contact with the main colony. No supply requests, no emergency alerts, no navigation sync for the night cycle. On Arctis 9, losing contact wasn't an inconvenience. It was a death sentence. The planet didn't like humans. It tolerated them with the enthusiasm of a cat tolerating a bath. But what really raised everyone's blood pressure was the command message they'd received just before the dish jammed. Unidentified hostiles detected in Outer Ridge. Lockdown protocol active. Confirmed status. And then the dish froze mid-rotation and the storm rose out of nowhere. Bad timing didn't even begin to cover it. Hale kicked a crate. If someone could just hit the stabilizer pin, the damn thing would rotate back into alignment. But nobody can even aim in this wind. It's like trying to shoot while standing inside a tornado. Commander Thorne sighed. The shot would have to be perfect. 1 millimeter off and you break the housing. And considering the wind is... She paused. Because Lira had opened the weapon locker. Hale blinked. Lira? You looking for something? Stabilizer pin's still exposed, she said without turning around. If we hit it cleanly, the dish resets. We just need one good shot. Jules barked a laugh. One good shot? In this? Rangers with 20 years' experience couldn't hit a wall from 5 feet away right now. Thorne narrowed her eyes. Lira, tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking. Lira pulled out Hale's long-range kinetic rifle, the one no one let her touch because the recoil could bruise bone. The team stared. You're kidding, Hale whispered. She shook her head. I've been studying the wind pattern. Jules sputtered. What wind pattern? The thing's curving sideways, doubling back, and then doing pirouettes like it's auditioning for ballet. That's the pattern, Lira said simply. They all paused. Even the storm seemed to hush for a moment, like it was listening. Thorne crossed her arms, assessing this young apprentice who was either brilliantly observant or completely out of her mind. Explain your plan. Lira stepped to the railing, letting sand sting her face. She tilted her head, eyes following the swirling currents like she could actually see the air bending. The wind isn't random. It's looping around the ridge. If I shoot with a high enough arc, the gust will push the round, curve it, then drop it right where the stabilizer is. Hale rubbed his forehead. That's not shooting, that's praying with extra steps. It's physics. Lira handed him the rifle magazine. And intuition. She loaded the weapon, bracing it against her shoulder. Jules muttered, "We're really letting her do this?" Thorn exhaled slowly. "If she misses, nothing changes. If she hits, we live," Lira finished. The storm wailed again. The dish spun, shrieked, wobbled. Lira set her feet. Hale whispered, "The wind makes the shot impossible." Lira smiled. "Then I'll adjust." Her finger brushed the trigger. And every ranger on site Harlow held their breath. The shot should have been instant, clean, precise, done, but the wind grabbed the bullet mid-air and twisted it like a toy. To anyone else watching, it looked like the round vanished into the storm. Hale swore. Jules threw his hands in the air. Commander Thorne's lips tightened in disappointment. But Lira didn't flinch. Because she'd seen something the others hadn't, a flick, a shift, a brief turn in the swirling dust that told her the bullet had almost followed the path she wanted. Almost. "Missed by 2 meters," Hale said, already trying to sound gentle. "Storm's too wild. Nobody could." "It curved," Lira interrupted quietly. Thorne blinked. "Say that again?" "It curved exactly when I expected. Just too early." Lira adjusted the rifle's elevation and reset her stance. "It's not random. The wind has rhythm." Jules stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "Rhythm? This storm is having a tantrum." "No," Lira murmured, watching the valley like she was listening to music only she could hear. "It's repeating. A cycle. Every 30 seconds the main gust pulls east then spirals back." Hale frowned. "Meteorological AI isn't detecting any pattern. The AI isn't a human eye," she said. "It's trying to average chaos. But I'm watching for the shape of it." Thorne hesitated. "You're absolutely sure?" "No," Lira said. "But I'm close." The commander stepped back. Not in approval, more like a permission to try again if she dared. Lira dared. She inhaled. The wind howled. The dish spun wildly enough to screech against its bearings. Somewhere in the desert far below, something growled, low, distant, not human. Jules stiffened. "Please tell me that was thunder." Thorne didn't answer. Because they all knew Arctis 9 didn't have thunder. Lira fired again. This time the shot arced higher, cutting into the wind at a steeper angle. The storm seized it, twisting the round with a violent sideways drag, but then something beautiful happened. The bullet didn't vanish into the storm. It danced with it, dipping, curving, swinging back like it was following an invisible thread. It missed the stabilizer pin by a meter. But this time the Rangers didn't groan. This time they stared. Hale's jaw dropped. She's actually mapping the wind." Jules looked between Lira and the storm like both were equally impossible. "That bullet didn't fly. It got dragged into a U-turn." Lira lowered the rifle. "I know what I need to adjust." Then the ground trembled. Everyone froze. Thorne tapped her helmet display, pulling up seismic readings. A tremor, faint, but steady, rolled beneath the outpost. Hale swallowed. Commander? I see it," Thorne muttered. Another tremor. Stronger. Then a second growl, closer this time. And unmistakably alive. On the far ridge, something moved behind the swirling wall of dust. A shape. Large. Heavy. Walking on too many legs. Jules whispered. "Hostile identified?" Hale checked the last received command alert. "They warned us something was out here. They didn't say what." Thorne's expression hardened. "Lira, how fast can you take the shot?" "Fast isn't the problem," Lira said, scanning the storm again. "It's timing." The ridge shook again, this time hard enough to rattle crates across the deck. Something out there was approaching. Something big. The communication dish spun so fast it beat against its mount, each clang echoing through the metal platform. Lira raised the rifle again. Jules paced nervously. If that thing gets here before we call command, we're dead. If we don't call command, we're dead. If she misses again. She won't, Hale snapped, surprising even himself. Just shut up and let her focus. The storm roared, swallowing visibility in tan and gold spirals. The strange shape in the distance lumbered closer, its silhouette flickering in and out as if the sandstorm tried to hide it. Lyra's world narrowed to the arc she was calculating. The gust timing. The rotation of the dish. The angle of the stabilizer pin. The rhythm only she seemed able to sense. She breathed in. The storm surged. The ridge quaked. And the creature in the storm let out a resonant, bone-deep roar that shook the platform. Thorn whispered. Lyra! 3 seconds, Lyra said. Hale checked the charging rifle at his side. Jules gripped the railing. Thorn steadied herself and nodded once. Lyra waited. 1 second. 2. The wind shifted, exactly when she predicted. She pulled the trigger. The bullet launched, caught by the initial gust. The storm grabbed it, hurled it sideways, then yanked it back as the spiral flow kicked in. It curved, dipped, rose again like a leaf in a whirlpool, only faster, sharper, deadlier. It spun toward the dish. A scream erupted from the storm behind them. Not human. Not anything they recognized. The bullet struck. Metal cracked. The dish snapped into alignment. Lights across the outpost flared alive. Just as the creature's massive shadow smashed into the lower ridge, shaking the entire platform like it was made of paper. Thorn's voice broke the silence. Signal restored. All units, prepare for contact. And Lyra reloaded, eyes steady, because the impossible shot wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The creature didn't just climb the ridge, it burst through it, sending shards of stone flying like shrapnel. Hale dove behind a crate, Jules nearly tripped over his own boots, and even Commander Thorn's breath caught as the monstrous silhouette fully emerged from the storm. It was enormous, twice the height of the outpost walls, with armored plates that shimmered like molten bronze beneath the whipping sand. 6 legs stabbed into the ground with crushing force, and a row of luminous blue eyes blinked in eerie unison across its skull. When it roared, the entire ridge vibrated as if the planet itself protested its existence. Lyra alone didn't flinch. Because while everyone else saw a monster, she saw the way the wind bent around its body, splitting, swirling, ricocheting off its plated form. Even now, the storm danced in patterns she had already learned to read. Positions! Thorn shouted. Do not let it reach the upper deck! Hale raised his rifle. Commander, the armor on that thing. Just slow it down! Jules fired first. The shot ricocheted off one of the creature's plates, sparking harmlessly. Hale's round didn't fare any better. The monster surged forward, claws sinking into the ridge's metal supports as if they were wet clay. It moved too quickly for its size, heaving its massive bulk toward the deck like a locomotive with claws. Thorn primed an explosive charge. If it reaches the tower, we lose the dish. We just got that dish back. Hale muttered. This sucks. Lyra took 1 step forward, eyes never leaving the storm-wrapped behemoth. Jules yelled. Lyra, get back! That thing demolishes buildings. It's not impressed by your physics. She did not move. The creature lunged. For a moment, everything slowed. The wind, the screaming sand, the echo of boots slamming against metal, as the monster's armored claw came crashing down straight toward the deck. Thorn triggered the explosive. A shockwave burst across the ridge, knocking the monster sideways. Its weight slammed into the cliff wall, sending a cloud of dust rising into the air. The platform shuddered violently, metal groaning under the impact. But the creature didn't stop. It pushed itself upright, bellowing with fury, and the storm responded like a living thing, intensifying, spiraling, almost supporting its advance. Hale's voice trembled. Why is the storm acting with it? Is it controlling it? No, Lyra said softly. It's reacting to it. Thorn glanced at her. Meaning what? That thing isn't controlling the wind, it's being carried by it. The team stared at her like she just announced the creature was politely asking for tea. Jules sputtered. Carried? That thing weighs more than the rover. The wind pattern bends around it, but it also pushes it, Lira said, watching the spirals closely. The storm changes every time it moves. Like it's amplifying the airflow. Hale's eyes widened. Wait. So the storm isn't random. It's following the creature, Lira finished. And then the creature roared again, a deep, resonant sound that shook dust from the rafters. The storm surged. And the monster charged. This time, nothing slowed it. It barreled across the lower ridge, smashing aside support struts, ripping the railing from its anchors. The entire structure sagged, tilting dangerously. Hale grabbed Jules to keep him from sliding off the platform. Thorn steadied herself against a beam. We need heavy ordnance. We don't have heavy ordnance, Hale shot back. We have a crate of shock rounds, Jules added. Those barely dented its armor, Hale reminded. Lyra's mind raced, not in panic, but in calculation. She traced the spiraling storm lines around the creature's advancing form. Every gust shifted the sand in predictable arcs. Every roar changed the wind's pressure. Every step caused a new surge. And suddenly she saw it, the same way she had seen the bullet path earlier. The plating has gaps, Lira said. But you can't hit them directly. You have to let the wind do it. Thorn stared. Do you mean ricochet shots? No, Lira said. Curve shots. Jules shook his head violently. Lira, this is not a shooting range or a trick shot competition. That thing is trying to turn us into paste. But Lira was already lifting her rifle. This storm is helping it move, she murmured. But it can help us too. The creature leapt onto the upper platform, claws screeching across the metal. Hale and Jules stumbled backward. Thorn drew her sidearm even though she knew it wouldn't penetrate. Lira steadied her stance. Wind tore at her clothes. Sand stung her skin. The monster's many glowing eyes fixed on her, recognizing the one human not running from it. The deck trembled under its weight. Hale shouted, Lira, move! But she didn't. Instead, she whispered, Come on, show me your pattern. The creature reared back to strike. The wind curled around its legs. The spiral intensified. Lira fired. The shot sailed, then twisted sharply, caught by the raging vortex around the creature. It bent upward, arcing over the plated shoulder, and slipped neatly between two armor plates near the base of its skull. The creature shrieked in shock more than pain. Hale's jaw dropped. No way! Jules blinked. Did she just hit a blind spot through a tornado? Thorn's eyes hardened. She found its weakness. The storm whipped into a frenzy as the creature reeled. Lira adjusted her grip, breath steady. One more, she said quietly. Because the shot she just made wasn't the kill shot. The next one would be. The creature steadied itself, shaking off debris as the storm coiled tighter around its massive frame. Its many blue eyes focused on Lira, not with animal instinct, but with something sharper, almost offended. The wind shrieked in unison, whipping the sand into spirals as if the storm was preparing for a killing strike of its own. Hale raised his weapon again, voice shaking. Lira, whatever you did, do it again, but faster. That thing is about to tear the station down. Jules crouched behind a support beam that definitely didn't look like it would survive the next hit. We're one sneeze away from going off this ridge. Thorn didn't speak. Her gaze was locked on Lira, not in fear, but in calculation. She trusted Lira in a way she hadn't expected to trust an apprentice. The monster lunged. Its front limbs crashed onto the upper platform, ripping through the deck plating. The entire structure tilted so suddenly that Hale slid several steps before grabbing a railing. Jules screamed something untranslatable but deeply emotional. But Lira still didn't move. Because she was watching the spiral. The wind wasn't random, not anymore. It was reacting to the creature's rage, swirling faster with each movement, tightening its pattern around the plated torso. The storm wasn't helping it attack now. The storm was trapping it in a vortex that made its path predictable. For anyone else, predictable meant nothing. For Lira, predictable meant rideable. The creature roared again and charged, claws tearing metal like wet cloth. Hale yelled, "Lira, shoot!" Not yet. The gust shifted left. The spiral tightened. The monster reared back to crush the platform with its entire weight. Now. Lira fired. The bullet shot forward, then vanished into the storm. Hale shouted in panic. Jules buried his face in his arms. Thorn's breath caught. But Lira watched. And the storm obeyed. The wind grabbed the round and twisted it in a perfect, violent arc around the creature's plated shoulder. The bullet dipped, rose again, then curved sharply downward, sliding into the thin seam of exposed flesh beneath the creature's topmost armor plate. A perfect wind-guided strike. The roar that erupted wasn't like the others. It was pained. Furious. Disbelieving. The creature staggered backward, legs slipping on the fractured metal. Its huge body swayed as the storm around it faltered, spirals collapsing into chaotic blasts of sand. Jules peeked over his arm. Did she kill it?" The creature roared again, but this time the sound cracked, warbled, failing. Another step. Another. It collapsed onto the ridge with a thunderous, resonant crash. The impact sent dust exploding upward in a wave. The storm shrieked, then went silent, collapsing into a gentle breeze as if the desert itself exhaled in relief. Hale lowered his rifle. "She killed it." Jules blinked several times. "Through a storm. With curved shots. Through wind." Thorn stepped forward. "Correction, she beat physics into submission." Lira finally let the rifle relax against her shoulder. Her hands trembled, but her eyes stayed locked on the fallen creature. She didn't smile. She didn't collapse. She simply breathed, steady and slow, as if she just finished solving a complex equation rather than saving their lives. The comm dish beeped, the sweetest sound they'd heard all day. Signal restored. Emergency channel active. A voice crackled through. "Site Harlow, status report. We detected seismic disruptions and irregular biometrics. Confirm hostiles?" Thorn glanced at Lira, then keyed her mic. "Hostile neutralized. Outpost secure." "Neutralized?" Command repeated, stunned. "That thing was Class Omega. Entire squads have died trying to." "Ranger Vos handled it," Thorn said simply. There was a long, incredulous silence on the other end. "Ranger, who?" Thorn smiled, placing a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "The one who made the impossible shot." Jules burst out laughing. Hale leaned back against the scorched rail, shaking his head. "We're never going to hear the end of this, are we?" Lira blinked. "You want me to not tell people I curved bullets through a desert storm?" Hale groaned. "Great. She knows she's cool." The ridge groaned beneath them, structurally unstable but still holding. The storm had fully dissolved now, leaving the sky clear enough for sunlight to spill across the barren landscape. For the first time today, the desert didn't feel hostile. It felt still, almost respectful. Thorn surveyed the damage. "We'll have to rebuild half the deck. And the tower. And maybe the ridge." "Worth it," Jules said, kicking a crushed support beam. "That beast could have eaten us." Hale pumped his fist. "And Lira bullied the wind." Lira shook her head. "I didn't bully it. I listened." Thorn smiled. "Then whatever you did, keep doing it. Because this outpost just earned a survival record nobody's touching." From the fallen creature's body, the wind carried away the last traces of the storm Lira had learned to read, leaving only quiet air and the smell of heated sand. She looked out over the valley where the patterns still lingered faintly in her mind. Patterns no one else saw. Patterns she now knew humans could learn, if they were crazy or stubborn enough. She wasn't sure what she'd become out here. A ranger? A scientist? A desert whisperer? Maybe all of them. But she knew one thing for certain. Impossible shots were only impossible until a human decided otherwise.